Yo, what's up, guys? I actually recently made a video comparing a bunch of SF teams, and then Moses and W came up with a team that's even better than any of those teams. So now it might be that SF is actually farmable right now. So this team is actually showcasing between 22 and 26 seconds average. It is very hard to rune. I will showcase his version as well, which is a lot easier to rune. But I'll first talk about this team, and then it's pretty much the same thing with 1 unit difference. The Deborah ain't in there. So what is this team all about? Well, we're using the Cordelia to go for high damage and mainly for this buff block. She's the main buff blocker, therefore she's also on double the speed of a lot of these units. She has to be plus 166 if she's on Swift. She has to be plus 165 if she's not on Swift, at least. Like, she can be more than that, of course. I also added in a fight set over here, and then I also go for as much damage as crit damage max gives, and then also damage on wind gives. Next up, we have the Claire moving. Claire has to be at least plus 43 speed, or no wait, plus 40 speed, so that is in the next tick. It's not allowed to be more than plus 60 speed, and we're gonna go for triple fight, and this is fairly easy to rune. This is definitely not an issue, but where it gets difficult is over here. You want China to do as much damage as possible, so we're adding in a lot of co-op, so the sum of the co-op plus wind is the highest number that you're aiming for, and then crit damage 1 is the main thing that you're aiming for. So we're wanting to have as much damage here as possible. We don't really care about the accuracy. The accuracy for Cordelia has to be 24. For her, we need 24, but that's already fixed by the passive, so that's all okay. Then we have Martina also on the highest damage possible. Fight set could be nice, but you could also just go for blades. That is totally fine. And then also the sum of the highest damage of co-op plus wind, and then on the other side also counter and co-op kind of stuff. And then the final unit is just whatever on this. So how does that run like, and why does it work that good? Because this team actually, this works a bit more wonky than the team or that Moses W showcased. But the team of Moses W actually did not fail. He said in 1,000 runs. Mine hasn't failed on this case in about a 500 runs as well. So it has been running for a good bit of time and it hasn't failed at all. And there's a few things to it. So thing that you already saw, the mid boss, we can actually clear the mid boss faster if we are having a little bit more damage. So that's already where it's showcasing. If you have better damage runes than I do, so if you are a farmer of Karazhan and you have ancient rage runes and those kind of things, you can probably make this better than I do. So what is the main issue for that? Well, if the Cordelia starts off with a skill 1 rather than a skill 2, we're not dealing enough damage with this death break to actually kill in this one hit. Like, it's super close. I tried a lot of different things to get extra damage in here. Maybe try like a triple fight on this or triple fight on the Cordelias, even what I tried. None of that really gave good results. So in this case, we also have a little bit of a worse run because we did not get a death break from you, and that's where it takes a little bit longer, and that's why this run is a little bit worse than the run from Moses W, which is just changing that 1 unit. But just showcasing how it works, it's kind of straightforward. You just clap the boss as hard as possible, and you use Cordelia, which is, I would say, the best buff blocker in game right now, because it's buff block on every hit, plus it's buff block on multi-hit with that S2. So it is definitely, it doesn't really get much better than that. You could argue for a Ling Ling being really good, but the Ling Ling is just off by skill 1 not buff blocking, only skill 2 and skill 3 buff block. Sure, you can go for the cycle of skill 1, skill 2, skill 3, but that's not always the case. So in this case, we do actually have like a pretty nasty pushback over here, and then we clear the whole thing. So yeah, if I did a little bit more damage, fastest run I can do is 20 seconds. So let me actually see that we can get a 20-second run, which is mainly on the mid boss. If she starts off with an S1 in wave 1, and then starts off with an S2 on mid boss, which is never going to happen if she start off with this, then it is possible that she does do a lot more damage on this hit, and therefore this is not going to be at like 5% HP left, so therefore she doesn't have to do another animation over there. Might you also ask, skins for Cordelia? Best is not to use the skin. Second best is to, or well, actually the best is to use a Chun-Li. Second best is to use non-skin, and then the skin is the slowest out of the 3. So, but between her and Chun-Li, it's about very close to one another. S2 is a lot faster, S1 is a bit slower, so that is the main thing for skins over there. But yeah, that's how it is for the runs. Main things that you want to focus on to get this run to run as good as possible is that you want to do a lot of damage on these two, which is helping by crit damage low and crit damage first. This one to add more damage for the Cordelia is just crit damage max is the main thing that you're aiming for. So in this case, we did not get a death break on you, so then we get a little bit of a longer fight. No, we still do enough damage that even if there's no death break from the Claire, we can still finish in one rotation. If she actually used S2, she used an S2. So that is the main thing that you're aiming for, and that's how you're getting like super crazy fast runs. But then again, it is also somewhat understandable that this is not able to be run for everyone, because this is what I've seen. I've seen averages between about 23-second average, and I've seen averages go up to like 26-second average, but I've never seen higher than 26-second average on this team. However, the other team that I'll showcase in just a second is going to be more towards a 26 all the time average kind of team. So what is that team from Moses SW looking like? So this is the team. If you have good enough runes, definitely would recommend to farm this, but this is pretty hard on the rune requirement to actually make it work. So 24-second average right there. What is the change? Well, the change is actually fairly simple, and it is a Brandia in here. I also tried it with a Heihachi. Heihachi can work because Heihachi also in this case, if you were to go for a Heihachi, then you could put the Heihachi also in the lead position. Therefore, you have everything a little bit stronger. But from what I've noticed, if the run goes kind of bad, the Heihachi damage is that low that if you miss a buff block on the first hit, then with the Brandia can one-shots like the boss from like 70 all the way to 0. That's really strong. And therefore, the Martina is there to also strip if she doesn't land it for the first hit. But a Heihachi does about like 20% damage of the boss. So it is one of those free-to-play options that you could go for if you don't have a Brandia. But if you have a Brandia, absolutely go for Brandia. This one is not really optimized or anything. I just used a whatever Brandia in this case. But more to showcase like how that run would work. And also why you kind of want to have that Martina in there. Because Martina is just simply so good for the moment that anything goes wrong, she will be the strip rather than Lauren being the strip. But because of her being the strip, you also do a lot of damage on your Shina still. Whereas a Lauren being the strip is not that crazy good of a strip, right? The only thing that you have over here, because you need one extra turn right now, you will get the lasers, and therefore you need will runes on the Brandia. And this will always result in a 26-second average kind of run. Keep in mind, if I'm running this on my phone, it's about 0.5 to like 1 second faster than I'm doing on the Steam client. Not entirely sure why that is. The Steam client is playing on a PC that's relatively good as well. But apparently it's not good enough to actually get like the fastest runs. I'm curious if my laptop is going to be faster than my phone is at the moment. That could maybe be a thing. I'm not too sure. But yeah, just a quick one for showcasing the teams, which is arguably the best team for SF right now. It is fairly easy to rune on this one, I would say, or at least a lot easier. Like, you can already see that I'm getting pretty close. Like, if everything goes right, I'm getting pretty close to killing. So you could put a lot of things in here if things go right. But if things go wrong, then you kind of need the Brandia to one-shot from like half HP or 60% HP. And she will do that a lot better than anything else. If you don't have a Martina, might you ask, I would recommend to go for the Ling Ling team. So just Ling Ling moving twice, I think that is still the best team. Or you could also recommend to go for the team where you just use a Cordelia together with a Shina, with a Rogue, with an Astar, and with a Hua. And then you just go for the full fire team plus a Cordelia. And then it's just like a bunch of team ups. It's going to be around like I would say 30-ish second average, something along those lines. So those are the options that you do have for how fast you can run this. And you can also check the previous video on SF that I make where I also compare like most of those teams. But just to add, like, I would say best in slot team right now. Once again, credits to Moses W. Link of his channel is in the description down below. But this team is definitely very solid. This is a very, very solid team, and this is also not gonna fail. It is still, out of all dungeons out there, one of the slower dungeons to rune. But it's actually kind of like, I would argue with this team being this good, that farming SF is actually not that bad at all. Like, this team makes it where farming SF is not that bad. And I might consider putting my Scout Battle towards Necro, because SF farming with this is actually a lot faster than necro farming, because necro farming in the end is still like 39 seconds, 40-ish seconds, maybe a 35 seconds on a good day kind of average kind of style. Whereas this is going to be 26 seconds all the time. If I get a little bit of upgrades, I might tune that down for the other team to go from 24 to 23, maybe even 22 seconds, if I get some good upgrades in that kind of sense. So those are the things that I'm aiming for. I might also just Scout Battle on R5, even though R5 is really simple, but I don't have R5 runed up at all given time. So in this case, a Heihachi would have absolutely not killed from that position on. A Brandia straight up kills. So that's the big difference why a Brandia is a lot better than this. Once again, if you don't have the Martina, just go for a different team because you're missing too many key parts. It's not that you can just put in a... You could put in a Lauren over here and try to do the same thing, but then your Brandia is the main damage dealer, which is okay-ish, but it's not really recommended. And then putting any of the other twins in here, let's say you go for a light twin or fire twin or anything like that, it's not going to do it because you're going to need that strip. If she fails, you need the strip back up over here. But yeah, as you can see, if I had just a little bit more damage, I could have killed from that position on as well. You could maybe also put in Lucifer / Uldongs in this position over here, but I'm not too sure like how great that would work. But that's more of a maybe than actually expecting it to be good. I think that a Brandia, or not a Brandia, a Deborah, in the end does always place more damage than anything of any kind of shape or way of units. So for that reason, Brandia is just going to, or the Deborah is just going to be best in slot. I already have that, already tried that. I personally can make it work, but it's really on edge that it's just about that sliver better. If you have way better runes than I have, which there's definitely people that do farm ancient runes, especially with ancient rune farming being a lot more common right now because of the update to the dimensional hole, that is definitely a thing that I would recommend looking into. Maybe a little bit of sidetracking, not really related to the video of SF, but there are a few new packs if you're watching it on release. What packs are worth it, what packs are not worth it? Just quickly, I think that this holiday special joy pass is really ass. It's just about like 5 LD scrolls, 6 of these. It is not that bad. If you're buying like normally close to everything like $1,000 a month, then you would consider buying this. Otherwise, I would probably skip out on this one. We do also have like a whole bunch, man. There's so crazy many packs in there. We do have this one as a return. I would still say that this is arguably a decent value. It does have the 3,000 crystals and then 10 on 10, which also makes it better than, where was that other one? The holiday joy thingy, whatever, man. There's so freaking many things. This one doesn't have any crystals, which is already quite a downfall of, like, sure, there's some crystal value in here, but this not having any crystals kind of makes this a shitty pack. Other packs that you currently have available are the ones that you have over here. The December and November. Apparently, they're going to do the Amiria's Blessing packs every month. I would say that these are decent in value if you're spending upwards of, let's say, $100 a month. But I would definitely say the Dimensional Hole, like especially if you're more towards endgame and you're already like maxing out what a rune can be, I would almost argue that this is the best pack in game at the moment if you're pushing towards like endgame or mid-game to endgame, because Ancient Runes just push your rune quality way further than anything. So I would say that this pack is, if you're just spending 30 a month, I would start off with this one. That is definitely a thing. But there's also then, of course, like these kind of things. I would say those may be secondary after the pass of the Dimensional Rift thingy. And then there's also one more for the check-in. This is also maybe after that. And then I would go for the TOA pack. So if you normally think it's like, oh, I always do the TOA pack every month. Low-key, I actually feel like the TOA pack is like a thing I would buy as 4th or 5th. So maybe I would recommend skipping out on that one. If you just want to spend under, if you want to spend under 50, do not get the TOA pack. I would highly recommend start going for this one because there's, not this one because there's also a bunch of LD scrolls and that kind of good stuff in that. But you also get a second one on this. I am not here yet. Maybe someone in the comments can let me know if you can choose the second one twice in a row. So especially if there's a rune that you really particularly want to roll twice, then this becomes a super interesting pack right there. And I think that this is the highest value pack in game right now. A little bit of sidetracking, but that's also probably useful for you guys. Well, guys, thanks a lot for watching for this one. I see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.